Boys, UFC 318, Holloway versus Poirier 3. And I'm not gonna lie, we've been doing great on predictions in the past month-ish. We've been doing really good. And you know what? I said I wasn't gonna be saying this because I thought it was bad luck, but we're gonna ace this card. Mark my words. With that being said, we're gonna run through every single fight on this card, give you guys my rare predictions on who I think is gonna win and how. Let's start off early prelims. Women's flyweight division, Carli Judice taking on Nicolle Caliari. Now, Judice is a striker with, some okay combinations. She has good volume. She can mix in punches and kicks pretty well. However, her takedown defense isn't that great, but she does have she has decent get-ups, and her striking defense, isn't that much better because in her last fight, she just got hit over and over and over again. But Caliari, on the other hand, is a fighter with a 100% finishing rate. She can go from KO to submission. She has good cardio, good pace. Her striking defense is okay, but she's good at avoiding those big significant shots, but she can also struggle with distance control and takedown defense like we saw in her UFC debut. She can also struggle against fighters who have a reach advantage, as well as she's pretty unproven so far in the UFC against UFC level fighters. I think this is going to be one of these classic forgetful women's MMA fights. I'm going 29-28 decision win for Carli Judice. Let's keep moving down though. Middleweight division, Brunno Ferreira taking on Jackson McVey. Brunno Ferreira is a powerful and light-footed fighter who can mix in his attacks pretty well. He can also mix in some grappling with some powerful takedowns. He has some slick BJJ, but he does tend to be a pretty slow starter. And his endurance is kind of questionable, I'm not gonna lie. Where Jackson McVey is a physically strong, aggressive, forward pressure fighter with some good clinch control. He has good size and reach for the division, but he's just relatively unknown, and the potential, we just don't know how he will face it against high-level experience, especially someone like a Brunno Ferreira who has been proven to be a UFC level fighter. We don't know if McVey's a UFC level fighter. I think Ferreira has the power to put away McVey. I think short notice, this dude cut weight 2 times in the past, I believe, few weeks here. I also just don't think he's on the same level as Ferreira. I'm going round 1 KO. Let's go down to the heavyweight division. Ryan Spann, Lukasz Brzeski. Ryan Spann is he can be a dangerous fighter with some good power in both of his hands. He has some good wrestling skills. However, he's just been extremely inconsistent over the past few years, where Brzeski is he's a 6'4" heavyweight with a 79-inch reach, and he has that classic heavyweight power. I just don't think he's a UFC level, I'm not gonna lie. Ryan Spann didn't look that good in his last fight, but I do think regardless he's still better than Brzeski all around. I'll go round 2 KO, mainly because again, I don't think Lukasz Brzeski is all that great. I don't even think he's really UFC level. Let's keep moving down. It just shows how shallow that heavyweight division is. But let's move down to the light heavyweight division. Jimmy Crute taking on Marcin Prachnio. Now, Jimmy Crute is a solid wrestler who goes for a good amount of takedowns in his fights. However, he can't really hold people down. He has some decent striking, nothing special. He did just come off that retirement over 2-ish years ago, and I'm just not sure how serious he's taking his career, where Prachnio is a karate-based fighter with some good distance control, good pace. He has good finishing ability with good power, a good amount of first-round KOs. He has good volume and good accuracy, but his striking defense is very worrying, as well as his grappling isn't that good. And, he doesn't really have much of a submission game, as well as his cardio and power definitely tend to slow down as the fight goes on. I think Jimmy is a lot better on the ground than Prachnio is better on the feet, if that makes sense. At the end of the day, both these fighters are pretty bad. I think Jimmy Crute is going to be able to get it to the ground. 29-28 decision. I don't think it's going to be a very eventful fight. Let's go down to welterweight though. Adam Fugitt taking on Islam Dulatov. Now, Adam is a forward pressure wrestler with okay striking. He has a high guard. He loves to lunge forward for those takedowns. He can be strong for the division, but his guard is not very, very tight, making him very hittable, and his chin isn't that good either, where Islam is a well-rounded fighter with good Muay Thai, good wrestling. He has a 100% finishing rate, and a good amount of them are first-round finishes. He has great accuracy, some nasty elbows, and good counterpunching, as well as he's pretty big for the division at 6'3" with a 75 reach. And At the end of the day, he's pretty unproven against high-level opponents. I don't think Adam is that high level, to be honest. I think, he's making his debut. Yeah, he might have those UFC jitters and all that stuff, but Adam Fugitt is not that good, and he's too hittable. I think we're going to see some nasty elbows thrown in this fight. I think we're going to see Adam cut open bad early round 1. And then he's getting put away. Round 1 KO for Dulatov. Let's keep moving down into the normal prelims now. We just finished up with the early prelims. Normal prelims, middleweight division. We have Ateba Gautier taking on Robert Valentin. Now, Ateba is a striker with some pretty crazy speed, power, accuracy, and he has a good jab as well with some good knees, good kicks, some good volume and timing, but his cardio and ground game are pretty underwhelming, I'm not gonna lie, as well as he's pretty unproven so far in the UFC, where Robert Valentin is one of these crazy dynamic strikers who leaves his hands low. He loves to throw a bunch of spinning shit, but because his hands are low, he tends to get hit a lot, as well as he gets taken down a lot. I think Robert's going to be way too wild, way too hittable. He's going to get caught by Ateba. I'm going another round 1 KO. Ateba getting it done. Let's move down. Into that welterweight division, we have Francisco Prado taking on Nicolle Veretennikov. Now, Francisco Prado is a powerful striker with some good looping strikes, good head kicks, decent Muay Thai. His striking defense is questionable because he keeps his head straight up and doesn't have much head movement at all. He has some decent grappling skills, but some questionable fight IQ because instead of adjusting, he'll just throw power shots all fight. But Nicolle, on the other hand, he's a high finishing rate fighter who has some good power, clean combinations. He has good head kicks and, decent submission threats, nothing crazy. He can end the fight by submission, but his striking is by far way better than his submissions. He has yet to get a win in the UFC though. And at the end of the day, it's do or die for Nicolle, and I think Prado is just too small for welterweight. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like him at welterweight. And again, it's do or die for Nicolle, and he knows if he loses, he's getting cut from the UFC. I think we're going to see him get his first win here, 29-28 decision. I wouldn't be surprised if he can catch Francisco Prado. I honestly wouldn't be surprised at all, but I'm going decision. Let's keep moving down, though. Middleweight division, Marvin Vettori, Brendan Allen. Finally, we got the bad blood fight, but to be honest, I don't think it's going to be that crazy of a fight. Okay, well, Marvin Vettori is a grappler who has developed his striking skills enough where he doesn't have to rely on his grappling as much, but he still has one of the best chins in the UFC, and he's just washed, to be honest. He made his comeback after 2 years, and he didn't look all that great. I mean, he looked like a classic bad Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori has never been that great, where Brendan Allen is a BJJ black belt. He has some really good low kicks, good takedowns. He has decent striking. His ground game is definitely way better than his striking. In his last few fights, he's shown he had some decent combinations, but his cardio is questionable. His fight IQ is questionable. I know this is a bad blood fight, but I think the lead up is going to be more entertaining than the fight itself. I think it's going to be a pretty boring, grappling heavy, ground heavy, 30-27 decision win for Brendan Allen. I just don't see this fight being all that entertaining, and yeah, mark my words, this is going to be a snoozer. Let's move down. Bantamweight division. Kyler Phillips taking on Vinicius Oliveira. Kyler Phillips is a explosive, dynamic striker with some diverse kicks, some fast combinations, good footwork, good head movement. He has some good grappling and some slick transitions and some decent submission threats. His cardio can fade in the later rounds if he starts off too fast, and his fight IQ is questionable because he throws a lot of these, overly flashy strikes for absolutely no reason, which, does drain his cardio a lot faster. His takedown defense is pretty inconsistent, and he can struggle against stronger wrestlers, where Vinicius Oliveira is a fun and aggressive fighter who is always on the front foot. He can sometimes go, Cody Garbrandt crazy and just throw at 100% trying to get a finish, and because of that, he can be pretty sloppy sometimes, but he's still very dangerous. But You know, he has some good takedown defense. His cardio is okay. I think Vinicius Oliveira low-key has beaten better fighters than Phillips at this point. And I know it's MMA math and we shouldn't be taking that into consideration. Also, at the end of the day, Phillips looked pretty bad in his last fight against Rob Font. I think Vinicius Oliveira is catching Kyler Phillips. Round 2 KO. Let's get into this main card now. Lightweight division. We got one of the unks of the lightweight division taking on an absolute killer. We got Michael Johnson taking on Daniel Zellhuber. Johnson is a fast, sharp, clean boxer with some good footwork, good takedown defense, good scrambles. He has some dangerous counter striking. He has good KO power with good fight IQ, and again, a UFC vet with some great experience against the best of the best at lightweight. But he can struggle against strong grapplers and submission threats, as well as his cardio tends to fade in a high-paced, grappling-heavy fight, where Daniel Zellhuber is a long, rangy striker with a good jab, good straight punches with some good distance management, good composure on the feet. He has decent takedown defense and has improved with his grappling with some good fight IQ, but he can be a little bit too patient in the early rounds, as well as he struggles against high pressure fighters. At the end of the day, you know, father time comes for everyone. Michael Johnson is fucking nearly 40 years old. We're seeing a devastating round 2 KO where Johnson is flatlined. It is what it is. I don't want to say it. I don't want to be the one to say it. It is what it is. It's just what's happening. Let's go down to the featherweight division. Dan Ige taking on the boy Pitbull. Now, Dan Ige is a really good kickboxer with some good powerful strikes in the pockets, with some good tight hooks, some good body-head combinations. He has good speed, power, and BJJ. He is pretty effective with a double-A takedown, and his clinch work against the cage is pretty good, as well as he just has some crazy toughness and conditioning, being able to fight, you know, literally few hours notice and go all 3 rounds. The only issue is he can struggle against fighters with a good jab and rangy kicks, where Pitbull is a dynamic striker with some good knockout power. He has some decent grappling skills. However, you know, 37, 38 years old, just getting into the UFC. You know, he's facing some of these fighters in their prime. Not necessarily Dan Ige, but I don't know how well he does against the top of the top at featherweight or any division, really. It feels like, you know, a lot of people are counting out Pitbull because he lost to Rodriguez in his last fight, and it's just, honestly, this feels like one of those fights where Dan Ige should win, but he's gonna lose. I think it's gonna be a stupidly competitive fight. Close 29-28 decision win. I'm leaning towards Pitbull. This will officially decide how well he'll do in the UFC, in my opinion. But let's keep moving down because we have a few more fights left. Welterweight division, Kevin Holland, Daniel Rodriguez. I believe this is the featured fight, but you know, Holland, a fan-friendly fighter with, you know, good KO power. His fight IQ has been getting better. You know, he's a pretty well-rounded fighter as well. Good takedown defense. He has some submission threats like we saw in his last fight. And Daniel Rodriguez is a good boxer. He has decent volume. He has a good use of his reach, you know, staying out of his opponent's reach and using his own. But he really just relies on his boxing technique over everything else. I said it last time, I'm saying it again. Kevin Holland is dialed in at a welterweight. He's a new mythical fighter. I'm going round 1 KO for Kevin Holland. Team moving down, middleweight division, the co-main event of UFC 318. Paulo Costa, Roman Kopylov. Absolutely a disgrace of a co-main event, but it is what it is. Costa, a aggressive pressure striker who has overrated power, but he has, you know, heavy hands, good body shots, but he's pretty durable with a good chin. He has good takedown defense, a strong clinch game. His cardio is probably the weakest part of his game, starting to fade early in the fight, where Roman Kopylov is a very well-rounded fighter with good kickboxing. He has good technical, powerful kicks, clean boxing, and great timing and accuracy. His footwork and distance management is pretty good as well, but his grappling and takedown defense are just okay, and he can struggle against good wrestlers and good submission threats, as well as, again, he starts to fade later as the fight goes on. I just think Roman Kopylov is better everywhere. Paulo Costa he's on a huge skid right now. He's going to be durable enough not to get KO'd, but Roman Kopylov is going to piece him up for 3 rounds. I'm going 30-27 for Roman Kopylov. Let's get into this main event, you know, the fight that everyone cares about, and the only real fight on this card that people honestly really care about. Lightweight division, Max Holloway taking on Dustin Poirier, number 3. Holloway, a great volume striker who You know, he's starting to gain some of that KO power, making him very dangerous. He has great cardio, some of the best durability in the UFC. He has some high fight IQ, great distance management, good timing, good takedown defense. But, you know, at times he can start slow and can struggle against stronger wrestlers, where Dustin Poirier is a strong technical boxer with great combinations, good fight IQ, and a high level experience against, again, some of the best fighters at lightweight. He has an underrated resume. He has, you know, good durability and good offensive grappling. He has a decent submission game. His cardio and pace is good for all 5 rounds. He can get hit more and more as the fight goes on, as well as his takedown can be exposed by better wrestlers. This is the 3rd fight, but at the end of the day, their 1st and 2nd fight don't mean anything, because they're 2 completely different fighters than how they were when they first matched up and in their rematch. I'm honestly not taking much consideration in the fact that Holloway just got knocked out in his last fight. I'm not taking much consideration into that. I don't think his chin got cracked. I think he's still gonna have a granite chin. I think Dustin is gonna try to put on a show, because again, this card was made for him. He's gonna be in his backyard. He's gonna put on a show for his people, and I think he's gonna get caught because of that. I think, you know, the fight IQ will go away because he's trying to have a memorable last fight. I think he's getting caught. I think it'll be a competitive fight all until he gets caught. I think round 4 TKO. I don't think he's getting flatlined like Gaethje. I think it'll be a TKO where he's buzzed on the ground, but he still has his wits to him. He'll try to stand up. He'll stumble a little bit. He'll be out on his feet pretty much. And I could just see a left hook hitting Poirier so clean. But yeah, that's my predictions. You guys have to let me know in the comments below. Who do you guys have for the main event? I honestly don't see a world where Poirier gets it done. I think either Holloway finishes him or he wins by decision. But yeah, let me know in the comments below. This card is okay. I feel like we're going to have some entertaining fights here and there. Some good finishes, but all around pretty mid. Thank you guys for watching to the end of the video, and I will see you guys in my next video.